Episode 3, The Hidden Code in the Qur'an. This is the third episode of a video series that we will be making to explain a few essential topics from our book Plato and the Qur'an. The English author John Michell once said, "The study of the ancient number code is a most delightful pastime, but it is not merely that, nor is it merely of academic antiquarian interest. To investigate the number itself in the Pythagorean model is to become aware of particular numbers which constantly reoccur in different systems of both numeration and natural phenomena, providing subtle and unexpected links. It may be that the advanced physicists and cosmologists today who are beginning to express again the Pythagorean notion that the basic patterns of creation are made of limited groups of numbers will come to realize that they are treading in ancient footprints on paths marked out by long-forgotten predecessors." Plato's writings express the idea that the basic patterns of creation are made of limited groups of numbers. He said, "Every diagram, system of numbers, every scheme of harmony, every law of the movement of the stars ought to appear as one to those who study rightly." In this episode, we will show that there is indeed a system of interlinked numerations, measures, and geometric standards that emerge from a single source in its most complete form in a distant time and left its mark on the monuments, scriptures, and cultures of virtually the entire ancient world. A mark so impossible to remove or forget that we even find it in the Qur'an. Considering John Michell's remarks and the writings of Plato, we will arrive at the number of harmonics of Plato's 25,920 Great Platonic Year, which we have discussed in detail in episode 2, and we highly encourage the viewer to watch. The number 25,920 can be reduced or expanded indefinitely through harmonic variations. In Chapter 21, Decoding the Code of our book, we explain in detail how to apply a specific set of rules and find the code. For simplicity, we will use only 3 of these rules here. However, before we explain the 3 rules, we need to suspend our usual approach to numbers and use a wholly different one. That is to say, the mathematics we will apply here has nothing whatsoever to do with the mathematics taught in schools, colleges, and universities. What we have learned about mathematics during our education system is essential for practical affairs, underpinning all technology and invention. However, it cannot help us understand the hidden meaning of the numbers in the Qur'an or other ancient scriptures. Instead, we require what we might call a mystical mathematics of the Pythagorean and Platonic variety. By mystical, we refer to that which contains esoteric or hidden truths and is embedded in symbols, rites, and allegorical writings. Rule 1. Plato's number 25,920 is the main number of our focus, and its harmonics listed below in Table 1 are all what we refer to as the code. Rule 2. We can remove the zeros or add any, and the result numbers are all still part of the code. For example, 2,160, 216, and 21,600, and 25,920, 2,592, and 259,200. Rule 3. Certain numbers of 3 digits or more can reveal the code when all its digits are multiplied by each other. For example, for the number 666, when we multiply 6 times 6 times 6, we end up with 216, which is one of the harmonics of the code. Let us now make a short list of the code numbers we seek, remembering that we can remove or add the zeros. 2,160, 4,320, 6,480, 8,640, 12,960, 17,280, and finally Plato's great year, 25,920. We will now give several examples of how we might find the code and its harmonics in nature, monuments, ancient texts, the Bible, and even the Qur'an. A more comprehensive list can be found in Chapter 21 of our book. Our solar system. We can observe the code within our solar system, most clearly with the Sun and Moon. The ancient measurement of the diameter of the Sun is 864,000 miles, compared to the scientifically proven figure of 864,938 miles, which is less than a 1 per 1,000% difference. Of course, 864 is one of the code numbers. The ancient measurement of the diameter of the Moon is 2,160 miles, compared to the scientifically proven figure of 2,159 miles, which is less than 1 per 10,000% difference, and 216 is one of the code numbers. There are 24 hours in a day. As we all know, there are 60 minutes in an hour and 60 seconds in a minute. This means a day is equal to 24 hours times 60 minutes times 60 seconds, or 86,400 seconds per day, of which 864 is one of the code numbers. Berossus's Sumerian king list. In ancient Mesopotamia, Berossus, the priest of the Temple of Marduk in Babylon around the 3rd century BC, compiled a list of 10 kings who ruled Sumer up until the time of the mythological flood for a period totaling 432,000 years, as shown in Table 2. The total number of years is 432,000, of which 432 is one of the code numbers. Ancient India. Ancient Indian civilization recorded cycles known as the Yuga cycles, a long-form calendar system spanning millions of years. The word yuga is a Sanskrit term meaning spinning, circling, or turning. There are 4 yugas as per Table 3. The total is 4,320,000 solar years, all of which are part of the code. Ernest Maclean, in his book The Myth of Invariance, decoded the following verses of the Indian Rig Veda, verses 2 and 3 of Hymn 4:58. So let the Brahman hear the praise we utter. This hast the 4-horned buffalo emitted. 4 are his horns, 3 are the feet that bear him. His heads are 2, his hands are 7 in number. Bound with a triple bond, the steer roars loudly. The mighty God hath entered into mortals. Maclean has interpreted this as referring to 4 horns, 3 feet, 2 heads, 7 hands, rendering a 4,320,000,000 year cycle. After removing the zeros, we end up with 432, which is part of the code. The Icelandic Poetic Edda. According to the American author and teacher Joseph Campbell, the code appears in the Poetic Edda, written in Iceland around 900 to 1100 CE. 540 doors there are, I ween, in Valhall's walls. 800 fighters through each door fare. When to war with the wolf they go. 540 doors times 800 fighters equals 432,000. 432 is the code. The Pyramids. The Great Pyramids of Egypt remain one of the world's 7 wonders. It seems impossible that even modern people with our technology today, let alone ancients, could have built such a monument of 2.3 million stone pieces, each with an average weight of 4 to 5 tons, in just 20 years, as some Egyptologists claim. 2 of the most well-known researchers in ancient mysteries and the Great Pyramids of Egypt, in particular, are Robert Bavul and Graham Hancock. In their book, Keeper of Genesis, A Quest for the Hidden Legacy of Mankind, they made a fascinating discovery regarding the code. The following passage of theirs speaks for itself. If you take the monument's original height, 481.3949 feet, and multiply it by 43,200, you get a quotient of 3,938.685 miles. This is an underestimate by just 11 miles of the true figure for the Earth's polar radius, 3,949 miles, worked out by the best modern methods. Likewise, if you take the monument's perimeter at the base, 3,023.16 feet, and multiply this figure by 43,200, then you get 24,734.94 miles, a result that is within 170 miles of the true equatorial circumference of the Earth, 24,902 miles. A minus error of only 0.75%. Of course, 43,200, after taking the zeros away, we end up with 432, which is part of the code. Indeed, this is a fascinating observation from two reputable researchers. The Bible. Anyone with prior knowledge of numbers will know that the Bible, both the Old and New Testaments, is a treasure trove of mystical numbers, more so than any scripture or book we know. We will show only two examples here, but of course, our book mentions many more. The number of the beast. In the book of Revelation, which is the final book of the New Testament, we read the following in 13:18. This calls for wisdom. Let the person who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. That number is 666. So, if we take the number 666 and multiply these three numbers together, which is 6 times 6 times 6, the result is our code 216. Another example, the number 153. The Bible describes several occasions when Jesus appeared to his disciples after rising from the dead. Peter and the others had just witnessed Jesus' miracle involving a large fish catch. In it, Simon and Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153. But even with so many, the net was not torn. John 21:11. If we multiply 153 by itself, we get 23,409. Removing the zero, we get 2349. 2 times 3 times 4 times 9 equals 216. The code again. The Qur'an. The Qur'an contains fewer numbers than the Bible, but those are significant and conceal the code. According to many Quranic commentators and interpreters, Prophet Noah lived for 950 years among his people, according to the following verse from the Qur'an. And we certainly sent Noah to his people, and he remained among them 1,000 years, Senna, minus 50 years, and the flood seized them, while they were wrongdoers. This surah of the Qur'an has been ubiquitously interpreted to mean 50 less than 1,000 years, hence the widespread belief that he lived to be at least 950 years among his people. However, there are reasons to believe this interpretation may be wrong. Before we interpret the Qur'an, let us remind the viewers of our episode 1, where the Bible also holds the Prophet Noah to have lived for 950 years, and to see if the number represents an astronomical cycle like the long ages of the other patriarchs. Now let us try to find the code within the Qur'an's description of the number 1,000 years, Sana, less 50 years, We can see that the Qur'an has used two names to denote the years, the first being Sana, the second, This leads us to the following interpretation. We will assume the Sana equals 365.24 days, a tropical year, and the equals 366 days, a leap year. Now, let us use those two numbers in this formula that the Qur'an gave us. 1000 sana minus 50 equals 1000 times 365.24 minus 50 times 366 equals 365,240 minus 18,300 equals 346,940 equals 34,694 after the removal of the zero. The next step is 3 times 4 times 6 times 9 times 4 equals 2,592 equals 25,920, which is the primary code, the Platonic Great Year. To our understanding, this is the first time that the age of Prophet Noah has been interpreted in this way, and the first time that the code has been found in the Qur'an, the same code that runs through the Bible, Plato's dialogues, the pyramids, the Indian time cycles, the Sumerian king list, and the Epic of Gilgamesh, its oldest written source found. But beyond text, we can see that the code is, as it were, written in the dimensions and movements of the sun, moon, and stars. Almost all the code numbers correspond to astronomical cycles and point to the most crucial cycle of all, 25,920 years, and its harmonic variations. In our opinion, the Qur'an is regarded as the supreme spiritual guide for humanity and a source of great wisdom. However, the failure to discern its hidden message, owing to centuries of Muslim scholars who have refused to see the ancient scripture as a continuous effort to communicate something more profound, has largely neglected its metaphorical and symbolic dimension. By opening up ourselves to this dimension, we can see that the text is, in fact, conveying the most profound of spiritual visions and an intellectual grip on reality. Some would rather continue to take the Qur'an as if it pertained to literal living personages on the stage of mortal history. Still, the Qur'an is so much deeper than that which is purely literal and historical. For more information, please visit our website on platoandthequran.com. To buy our book, please visit amazon.co.uk or amazon.com.